what's going on, everyone? My name is Eric. This is the Road to Freedom, and thanks for joining me. Again, breaking some laws. Again, my eyes are clearly on the road. I appreciate your concern. All right, so I guess the next section is going to be communication. I guess that's kind of where it's going. So let's get into it. For those of you who have your top 10 goals, go ahead and get into that. For those of you who are doing the emotional exercises, go ahead and do that. Go from a positive to an erratic emotion, from erratic to neutral, from neutral back to positive. We want to encourage learning once again. And pause the video and come back to us whenever you're done. Alright, so communication. There is some things I went into, like good weather, good roads. There's going to be stuff on forgiveness that's going to be coming out pretty soon, if it hasn't already. How to have conflict resolution with your family, with coworkers, with peers, is how you go about doing this a little bit differently. But there's some things I forgot to go over. So today we're going to go over stop words, because I just used the word but. All right, what's a stop word? A stop word is whenever you use a word or phrase and it essentially stops communication, or it negates what was said before. So the word but, I'll keep on going on with this one because it's so easy to pick at. So again, the example is, hey, I really like you, but it's cloudy outside, versus, hey, I really like you and it's cloudy outside, versus, hey, I really like you as well as it's cloudy outside. You see, just by using a different what's called conjunction, tying an independent to a dependent clause or two independent clauses together, just by changing that word, you can change the entire meaning. And so if I use great things, as my independent clause or dependent clause, and I say like, oh wow, like your boss, picture this. Boss calls you in, they say you're doing great work, and but they say you're getting promotion. It's kind of weird, right? That but right there does not make sense. But a lot of, and with that said, a lot of folks, they use the word but a lot. Versus, picture this, your boss calls you in, saying you're doing great work, and you're getting a promotion. Wow, that's a very different experience, right? Is there use for stop words? Absolutely. Whenever I'm doing pay negotiations and I want to do a Powerball move, right? Like I want to get hardball on them, I'll use the word but. Or if I want to diminish their statement, I'll use but. That's my opening line, but, and I'll get into it. Or if I want to cause doubt, I use the word but. So there's like reasons why we'd use stop words, but with that said, what the exercise today is going to be is we're going to think about words that are stop words and words that we can use in lieu of, right? So unless you learn how to change your language, you probably shouldn't be using these, because it's going to cause more issues than not. So here's a couple stop words to think about. But, no, don't, stop. So write those down. But, no, don't, stop. Okay? And then what I want you to figure out when is some examples that you may use that word, and what's another phrase that you can use. I'll help you out. We'll start with but, we'll go into that. I'll give you one for no, or don't. And then what I want you to do is run with it, right? Because this is your communication. Your speech patterns are probably different than mine, especially right now when I'm not in work mode. So let's get into it. So, but, yes and. That's a great one. Yes and, instead of but. Now you're getting agreement, right? That's what you're doing. Yes and. With that said, I've said it a couple times. With that said, also, likewise. Here's a couple, that's not all, but these are some examples where you can do that. And if you hear me, I've used the word but several times. So let's look at that statement I just used. Here's some, this is not an exhaustive list, but here's some examples. Was that a correct usage of that statement? I would agree, because let's plug something else into it. Here's some examples, as well as, or excuse me, this is not an exhaustive list, as well as, here's some examples. Doesn't sound right. Maybe it's to you. Maybe you might use it there. Or, this is not an exhaustive list, as well as, or I already used that one. Yes, and here's some examples. Right? So it doesn't make sense. It's not proper grammar. So there's times when you're going to use the but word, and it should be used intelligently. Right? So if you make if you do the sandwich model, like whenever you're giving communication, and you're going good, critique, good statement, you might go like, hey, it's really awesome, Eric, that you're making these videos, but driving while you're doing that is probably not a good idea. And also, we really appreciate the fact that there's green in your background. So that's a great form of using but as in communication, right? So I just did a sandwich model. I want to get to the critique. I also don't want you to feel defense about the gate. So I'm trying to get agreement. I'm trying to give an honest compliment, and then I wrap it up with a good conjunction that is saying, Eric, you probably shouldn't be driving while you're doing this video. With that said, I don't want you to forget that I still care for you. So, or I don't want you to forget the lesson. So I'm going to use it as well as, or and statement. And that way the message is clear. There's a critique, but I still care. Still providing good. All right, so don't. Another word that you may use might be maybe. Right? Let me give you an example. Let's make an example and I'll give you a word. So whenever you say at work or in family, maybe you might say the term, we don't do that. Maybe to a child, for example. I'm going to see my son, so I'm thinking about children. So with children, as we all know, that is, well, how far is that going to get you, right? So something we can say instead is, maybe we should think of that. Is that something that we do? Turning it into a question, throwing it back at them, right? So that could be examples. So the stop words that I've thrown out is but, no, don't, stop. So maybe there might be more stop words that whenever you feel it, it's kind of abrasive. Write those down. Think about some other words that you can use that you don't throw out habitually. It causes pattern interrupts in your communication unless you want to do that. There's absolute valid time to do that. Hopefully I've demonstrated that. And then go practice, right? Go practice it. So, if you got a tiff with someone, you got a little argument with someone, start using the word yes and, as well as, likewise, right? These are all great statements. So whenever they say something you don't agree with, just say yes and then bring up your argument. That's a really great way to keep people from being defensive. You're acknowledging what they say,